All right, Lance, this is another edition of The Lawyer's Lawyer, but not the dad's dad. So, my dad loved cigars, and my dad liked to smoke, and my dad said cigars actually would settle his stomach down. And my dad said, he was a navigator, and I don't know what chapter this is going to go in. Maybe it's advice or vices. Advice and vices. That might be the name of this chapter. Advice and vices. Dad's advice and some of his vices. Friend of mine, Tim Bethel, brought this over yesterday when I was in the house arrest. For drunk driving, and my tortilla jacks food. But earlier yesterday, a friend of mine came over, Zoe, and we were talking about relationships. And we actually had some interesting thoughts about relationships. Hang on. And this is kind of part of Dad's advice. And I wrote down a note real quick. I wrote down her notes because, my dad always used to say, advice to me was, you got to find a smart girl to be with. Because after the fucking's over, you got to have something to talk about. I know that's what he loved about my mom. I'm not so much sure about my stepmom. I don't know. My dad, I think maybe he did the best he could on the second shot. I just know the gene pool was diminished a little bit compared to me to my little brother, who's actually in jail right now for his 5th or 6th DUI. See here. Okay, so Zoe comes over yesterday, which was beautiful because I needed to talk to her. Well, I just wanted somebody to talk to. It was great. And she seen me, lose 107 pounds of weight. She's seen my behavior patterns change. We might even say that I've matured slightly. My behavior's a lot different without smoking weed or drinking. I was much more fun. Alcohol was my favorite drug to abuse. Alcohol is not a gateway drug by any means, and I don't think marijuana is a gateway drug. I definitely know cocaine is not a gateway drug. It's kind of interesting with my addictions. I could moderate. I could quit anytime I wanted to. I just don't think I ever really wanted to quit drinking. I know my dad didn't. My dad wanted to drink more than being married to my mom. My dad's advice was what his dad told him. The judge, James A. McClure, was a teetotaler. He said, if you can list the name of the benefits of me drinking alcohol, I'll start. Which was kind of a creative way to put it. So anyway, we were talking about what attracts couple people that want to be together. And she says intellectual first, friends, sex / intimacy. And then as our conversation went along a little further, we decided that friends and sex, those could be interchanged but the intellectual part was always the most important. Same with my dad. And I need to I need to read some more of my dad's writings, because he really, you know, that's part of what this book is all about. You know, he knocked off a lot of what Napoleon Hill said, and Napoleon Hill was big into the love energy. The most powerful energy out there is the love energy between a man and woman, and really that's kind of what Napoleon Hill got to really when he hit stride. And his partner was his wife, and the love energy between them is one of the things that helped him succeed. Those were one of the things that helped him get through this thing we call life. This is from Cuba. I'm kind of glad they lightened up some of the things, because man, those Cubans know how to make cigars. So, my dad wielding advice, which one of the most difficult things, like when you read his writings, was, well, shit, Dad, you wrote it down, you dicked it when you wrote it down, but you didn't live up to it. I mean, he had the plan written down, bar none. If he would have he never took his own advice. Look, I don't know what you believe in. Let's just break it down like this. You got good and you got evil. You got light, you got dark. A bright light, a light force came into my body and took away my desire to use drugs of any kind, which includes alcohol, and stayed in me. Like my dad, I never would have quit drinking because, let's say I couldn't, didn't want to, whatever. It's like I could never take anybody's advice on not drinking until a higher power came in and changed my life. Which is kind of ironic. Now I can be more like all the good traits of my dad because I'm sober and can execute those deeds. I'm not going to ramble on too long today. I've given you half hours of stuff, and I'm kind of going through some interesting things right now. I'm not prepared to put on video yet. I will tell you, a funny story. My dad fucking never liked anybody telling him what to do. My dad didn't like to be bossed around. It wasn't another man's place to tell another man not to take a drink. That's the way my dad felt. He was adamant about that. I went to AA with my wife when she got in trouble in California. And when I stood up, it came around to me. I go, "Hi, I'm Henry McClure. I'm an alcoholic." I mean, I've been an alcoholic for a long time. I know my dad knew he was an alcoholic. He had to. So, I don't know, I might have said this story, but, Roger from jail wanted me to, and make a footnote here. if I need to go back and tell the Roger story, if it's not in some other thing that we wrote, because I don't know how in the hell we're going to wordsmith this thing. But Roger asked me to go to an AA meeting to tell my story, share it with it. He says, Henry, you could motivate people. You're a salesman. You could make people not want to drink. So fine, I'll go for you, Roger. You know, because I got no problem telling anybody everything about my story. So I get on Facebook and I join this Friends of Bill, you know, the AA guy. And personally, I think AA is outdated, but that's a whole nother subject. AA's for quitters. I've quit, so do I need AA? No. I don't, but I'm not turning my nose up at it. I'm not being smug or a smartass. I'm not. I'm just talking about it frankly. I'm talking about it Henry McClurley. So I write on there that hey, I just got out of jail. I'm on house arrest. As soon as I get off house arrest, I want to go to an AA meeting. And tell my story. And so I ask on my post in Facebook if somebody could help me. If somebody could help me. Hang on just a second. If somebody could help me find a meeting to go to that I could tell my story. I got a couple of likes. Some people looked at it. Somebody made a comment. Finally, this lady recommended a meeting to go to. But a couple of days go by, and I get some instant message from some guy who's in that group, and he says, well, you shouldn't post that on Facebook. That's only for your sponsor or for friends of yours. That fucking rubbed me the wrong way. Why do I got some guy telling me what I can tell people about my problems? I'm not ashamed of them. I own my past. I own it. I'm telling people, maybe there's somebody out there that's only had, maybe somebody that hadn't had a run-in with the law with their drinking problem. And maybe they could learn, wow, if I keep fucking getting hammered and driving around, I'm gonna go to jail like this guy did. But anyway, I just thought it was really inappropriate that this guy would comment to me. I'm telling you what, if my dad were going, or if my dad was in this situation, and somebody tried to boss him around about what he was saying about him not drinking and his shit, and he'd have got mad. That's just the way Dad was. Well, I just hope these posts are productive. And I hope that we can... I know they're productive for me getting it out, but I don't know if they're productive for me writing a book. But anyway, that's all I want to talk about right now, about the lawyer's lawyer and the dad's dad. Lance, I appreciate your patience and working with me, and I actually really appreciate some of the fatherly advice that you gave me as a young man when I worked for Mace Rich, drinking too much and being a rowdy son of a bitch. I'm glad that deep down you knew in my heart Or maybe you didn't know. Maybe you're just going to see how it came out. But at least you cared enough about my potential to want me to start respecting it and behaving properly. I'm not sure my behavior's changed any. It's just all sober. That's kind of funny. Henry McClure.